Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. Quality nutrition shouldn't be complicated. Just 2 scoops of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake, and you've got 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Whether you're craving that coffee taste to kickstart your morning ritual, or as a nutrient-packed reward to round out your afternoon, Kachava keeps you fueled and satisfied wherever your day takes you. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. And for the times you feel like switching it up, you've got 7 flavors to choose from, all with the highest quality ingredients. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code FITNESS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code FITNESS.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up, brother, hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN family podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Ben Wilson, who does such amazing work over here at VSIN. His play-by-play work, it is second to none, whether that be in tennis, college baseball, college basketball, list goes on, and we have to talk with him about these struggles that we're seeing with these NL East teams. The New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies. Not great, Bob. Not great. So there's that. And in this case, it's not Bob, it's Ben, because we have him as our wonderful guest today. We're going to be taking a look at the NL Central as well. He, much like myself, a man from the great state of Wisconsin. So we'll give you a preview of the Pirates versus Brewers, whether or not the Brewers offense is sustainable with them not hitting a lot of home runs, but continuing to move the line even with a bunch of injuries. And we're just going to take a look at the landscape of baseball that we got right now in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, large DM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions, but we had a great day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Benefiting from the Phillies and the Mets being absolutely awful right now, the Atlanta Braves, as the Braves, they get the job done once again. They knock off the Washington Nationals, this by a count of 7-2, as they're now 18-8 to start the season. J.R. Ritchie in his MLB debut, pretty solid here. He goes 7 innings, gives up 2 runs. Now, both were solo home runs. James Goodwood for his 10th home run of the campaign. C.J. Abrams his 7th, and then Dylan Lee and Carlos Cookie Carrasco. Yes, that Carlos Carrasco. Both come in for a scoreless inning. Kate Cavalli, he was solid in his start. 10 punch-outs, 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, and then the bullpen happened. Richard Dickey Lovelady, he was able to give you a scoreless inning. Ciano Perez gives up 3 runs at a third of an inning. Gus Varland, he goes for 2/3 of an inning, allows a run, and then you did have Julian Fernandez give up 1 run in 2 innings. That would be a solo home run to Ozzie Albies, 5th home run in the campaign, but bullpen does indeed let the Washington Nationals down. For the San Diego Padres, they helped the Colorado Rockies upchuck defeat from the jaws of victory. Rockies were up 3 runs going into the 9th inning, 4 runs going into the 8th, 10-8. If you had a plus a run half with the Rockies, that's rough. Padres get the job done. Matt Waldron, not good here. 6 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. He gives up a home run to Mickey Moniak, 7th home run of the season, and then Moniak off of Adrian Morejon. He would get his 8th home run of the season. Morejon gives up that solo home run in his inning of work, but Ron Marinaccio, he gives up a run over the course of 2 innings. Mason Miller closes the door. Another save for him. Has yet to give up a run this season, and Ryan Feltner not long for this game. He has to be removed after 40 pitches. We'll see if he lands on the injured list. 2 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings. From there, Zach Ognos, he pitches 3 innings, 2 runs allowed, given the circumstances. Not awful. He does give up a home run to Xander Bogaerts, 4th home run of the season, and then Seth Elverson, a scoreless inning, Juan Mejia, a run allowed in 1 2/3 innings, and then Victor Vodnik completely lights this game on fire. In the 9th inning, he gives up 5 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including a home run to Gavin Sheets. Holy Sheets, his 3rd home run of the campaign, and then Brandon Bernardino, pair of outside the bullpen, scoreless himself, but by then the damage had been done, and the Padres, 17-8 to begin the season. Philadelphia Phillies, they now have lost 9 straight games. That's more than the amount of wins that they have this season, and that would be 8 for the Cubs. They get it done in 10 innings, 8-7 the final. Edward Cabrera, he fills 7 innings. He gives up 5 runs, 3 of which were earned, including a pair of bombs, as you had Brandon Marsh take him deep twice, 3rd and 4th home runs of the season. And then in the 9th inning, with the team down a run, Adolis Garcia does get his 3rd home run of the season. That comes off of Caleb Theobar. Theobar would not get a single out, gives up that solo home run. You did have Hobie Milner come in for a pair of outs out of the bullpen, allows a run. Jacob Webb, he comes in and he gets an out of the bullpen scoreless. From there, though, you were able to have Javier Assad give you a scoreless 10th inning, Riley Martin, a scoreless inning himself, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, Cadena Sanchez, 12 hits, 6 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. They needed him to wear it because they didn't want to go to the bullpen. Gives up a pair of home runs. Ian Happ, not Hapless, 7th home run season, then Michael Busch, 2nd home run season. Seiya Suzuki, I see a 3rd home run of the season, his 3rd in the last 10 days. That comes out for Brad Keller. The former Cub gives up a solo home run in his inning work. Chase Shogert, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Orion Kirkering, Jose Alvarado, both on his squirrels inning. In the Tanner Banks, he gives up the walk-off winner in the 10th inning. Unearned run, Dansby Swanson, RBI single to be able to get the job done there. The Chicago White Sox go on the road, and they win a series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. 4-1 the final. They started off the game 3 of 6 with men in scoring position with 1 run, but then they bust through in the 9th inning with Andrew Benintendi getting his 2nd home run of the campaign. That comes off of Paul Sewald, who, if you listen to this podcast, you know that I don't trust him. He gave up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, and it wastes what was a really good first 8 innings for the Diamondbacks. Kevin Ginkel, Juan Barrio, they combined for 3 scoreless innings. Michael Soroka, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Jonathan Loaiza would get an out of the bullpen scoreless, and Davis Martin continues to be great here for the White Sox. 6 1/3 innings, allows just 1 run from there. Grant Taylor, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Serenity Dominguez, he closes the door with a scoreless inning. So the White Sox find a way to persevere, get the job done for the LA Dodgers. They do not give up a single run, 3-0. They're able to take down the San Francisco Giants. Tyler Glass now great in this game. He allows 1 hit, 1 walk in 8 scoreless innings. Tanner Scott, a save with a scoreless 9th inning for Logan Webb. 3 runs allowed in 7 innings. Been rough for him. Blade Tidwell from there, a pair of scoreless innings. But for the San Francisco Giants, hard to win a game where you get 1 hit up on the board. And for the New York Yankees, they hold down the Boston Red Sox 4-2 the final. Red Sox are feeling very fortunate. The NL East team's really struggling because they're 9-16 this far this season, and Peyton Tully was great. He gave up 1 run over the course of 6 innings, punched out 11, did give up a home run to Jazz Chisholm. That was a solo home run, his first of the campaign. But then from there, Danny Kalum gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Greg Weisert from there and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you had a pair of outs out of the bullpen from Ryan Watson, and then 4 outs from Tyler Semenijo. On the flip side for the New York Yankees, Cam Schlittler continues his good start to the season. Did allow a home run in this one, taking him deep. You had Carlos Cervantes get his first home run of the season, but in 8 innings, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, allowed from there David Bennar. He does not poop the Bennar. He was able to give you a scoreless inning of his own. For the Detroit Tigers, they find a way to be able to get past the Milwaukee Brewers 5-4 the final in this one. For Tariq Skubal, a little bit of an uncharacteristically shaky start for him. 4 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, and we'll talk more Brewers in the next segment with our good friend Ben Wilson. He, much like myself, from the great state of Wisconsin. Brandon Sproat continues to be shaky for the Brewers. 3 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, and he gives up a home run in this one as taking him deep. Riley Green, his 2nd home run in the campaign, and then you would have from there Jahmai Jones, 2nd home run of the season. That comes off of Anhel Zerpa. As for the Brewers bullpen, Aaron Ashby along Grant Anderson, both give you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Trevor McGill has been shaky this year. He was solid, scoreless inning, but then Zerpa gives up a solo run in the 8th inning, gives up 1 run in total, and then Abner Uribe, he gets walked off as taking him deep. Spencer Torkelson, 2nd home run of the season, solo home run, ends the game with a tied up 4-4 in the 9th. And for the Tigers, their bullpen did their job. Tyler Holton, scoreless inning, and then you'd have from there Brian Herter give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Bridge Smith, he comes in, gives you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. He's been in baseball for like 500 billion years, but they do find a way to persevere, get the job down there. And for the Mets, they tried to blow a 5-run lead to the Minnesota Twins. They were unable to do so, though. The Mets, they have now won back-to-back games, ladies and gentlemen. They take down the Minnesota Twins as Joe Ryan did not have himself a good start in this one. 7 runs, 4 of which were earned in his 5 innings, including a pair of bombs. Brett Beatty, his first home run of the season, and boy, has it been rough for this man. But Carson Benjay, 2nd home run of the season. From there, you did have 2 2/3 innings from Andrew Morris. He gives up a pair of runs as coming in after him, it was Anthony Banda, and boy, has he not been good, to say the least. He was unable to hold them on. He gives up 1 run. He was on the hook for 1 of them in a 1/3 of an inning, but he was taken for a ride with the bases loaded by Bo Bichette, who's been absolutely terrible. Bases clearing double with the bases loaded to be able to get the Mets lead and the ultimate win. As for the Mets, this was pretty much a bullpen game for them. Christian Scott removed with a no-hitter in the second inning, but he walked 5 and walked in a run, so that was interesting to say the least. Tobias Myers, an unearned run given up in 2 1/3 innings. David Peterson is out pitching long relief, 3 1/3 innings. He does allow a solo run, taking him deep. Yeah, Tristan Gray get his third home run the campaign, and then Oscar Brisbane, he gives up a home run to Ryan Jeffers, his third home run season, as Craig Kimbrell really put men on base. 2/3 of an inning, he gives up 3 runs. I have no idea why he's on an MLB roster. Brisbane, unable to hold them on base, gives up that home run, only charged with 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. From there, Devin Williams was able to get the final 2 outs of the game, but not before giving up a run and being in a sticky men in scoring position situation. So this game lands 10-8, and then for the Texas Rangers, they get it done against the Pittsburgh Pirates, 6-1 the final. If you had the over in this game, my goodness. This was a game that was 6-1 in the top of the 5th inning, and it ends 6-1. As for Jacob deGrom, really good start here. 5 2/3 innings, allows a solo run to Oneil Cruz, 8th home run of the campaign, but that's all he'd give up, punches out 10. From there, you had a scoreless inning out of Jalen Beeks, Jacob Junis, Gavin Collier. He comes in for an out of the bullpen scoreless, and then in the 9th inning, they call up the young gun to be able to get the final 3 outs. Peyton Gray, in his MLB debut, he goes for a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Bubba Chandler, this was not what he was hoping for. He gives up 2 home runs, 6 runs in total over the course of 4 innings. Corey Seager, 6th home run in the campaign. Evan Carter, his 3rd. From there, the bullpen did their job. Evan 6, 2 scoreless innings. Justin Lawrence, you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez. Both give you a scoreless inning, but by then, damage had very much been done. If you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in baseball right now has been an overwhelming season. The over rate is 53.2%, 191 overs, 168 unders, and I believe we're sitting at 11 pushes as well. Might be 1 or 2 more pushes, but certainly a very high over rate there. Favorites, they're hitting at 54.8% on the money line. It's been a little bit better recently, and among these 198 favorites, 32 have failed to cover the run line. Last 7 days, favorites hitting at more around 56.8%, 54 and 41 on the money line out of those 54 favorites. We have seen a whopping 11 not cover the run line. Meanwhile, over the last 7 days, very much 50-50 with regards to the totals, 48 overs to 47 unders. That's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, let's chat it up with our good friend Ben Wilson of VSIN, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSIN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Ben Wilson aboard. He does such an amazing job here at VSiN, looking at so much of our live betting coverage over the weekends. I know that he's doing an absolutely tremendous job with regards to all of his play-by-play work, whether that be in college basketball, whether that be in baseball, tennis, you name it, he does it, indoor football, list goes on, and wealth of knowledge, and a man just like myself from the great state of Wisconsin. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at his first name, Ben, and underscore his last name, Wilson, and underscore after that, and then the number 1 altogether. And Ben, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, likewise, Greg. And look at us. Look at the NL Central. I mean, you got every team over 500 playing pretty good ball. And if you were to tell me that the last place team would be 2 games over 500 as we're recording, I'd say, look, that's a sign of some good competitive baseball. So excited to see what this weekend set Brewers Pirates brings about, especially with the Brew Crew getting a date with Mr. Paul Skeens right out of the chute.
Absolutely, and we will talk about that in a minute. Typically, we do dive right into the NL Central, but first things first, what in the world has happened to these teams in the NL East, with the Mets losing 12 straight games, finally being able to snap that on Wednesday? As we're recording this, the Phillies have more consecutive losses, 9, than they have wins, 8. It's just a complete dumpster fire, with the NL East becoming the NL least.
It's so bizarre. I mean, look, the Braves might have the division wrapped up by the end of May. I mean, the way we're trending, it's just been absolutely ridiculous. And you know, we talk about this back to the preseason. It's not like we were super high on maybe Freddie Peralta individually. If you were talking in the, like the fantasy world or individual season-long betting props, with all the longevity, how many high leverage innings he had pitched deep into the season for Milwaukee. But neither of us thought that the Mets or Philadelphia would be in a situation like this. I mean, it's just been ridiculous. And now it was almost like put him out of his misery, just throw Francisco Lindor on the 10-day IL. I mean, they might as well just put him on like a makeshift 45-day IL to cover March and April going forward because he's just totally useless in the first 2 months of the season. It's felt like that ever since he got to New York. So it's one of those things where I'm not going to sit here and say, okay, this is like a buy low spot and you should be looking at futures for either of those teams. I really don't. Having said that, I mean, it can't get much worse, right? So I definitely do see there being some value just in individual game markets eventually here for both these teams. They're going to start to turn it around. But I mean, when you start talking about holes this big, we've seen it time and again, Greg. We talk about it every year, whether it's around this time in the calendar, late April or early May. And, you want to talk yourselves into these teams, but oftentimes what you see is what you get through the first, 30 plus games. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
Absolutely. And when it comes to this long of a losing streak for the Mets, no team has ever made the playoffs after having a 12-game losing streak. So, yeah, they have played baseball for a very, very long time. That's not a place where you want to be, to say the least. A place where you want to be is talking Ben Wilson, who does amazing work here at VSIN right here on the Baseball Betting Show. But, I mean, out of those two teams, in terms of Phillies and the Mets, is there one team that you think might have a little bit more upside, or do you think that they're both relatively just in the same spot right now?
I think it's Philadelphia. I mean, Trey Turner's been very slow out of the gates. He's a guy I still feel like has a good amount of tread on the tires. And anytime you're talking about a team that plays in a hitter-friendly park that has had players get off to relatively slow starts, I'm naturally inclined to think, call it the Cubs corollary if you want. But, I mean, how many times have we seen Chicago offenses get off to very slow starts and then the weather starts to turn a little bit at Wrigley and the wind starts blowing in the opposite direction? And what do you know? They turn into a top, 5-10 offense from May or June onward. So I do think there is upside for Philadelphia. We saw Brad Keller the other day come in and struggle, but I think there's an opportunity for a veteran guy like him to maybe get some saves at the back half of that back end of the bullpen and be somewhat of a stopper there. And like Aaron Nola, who's had a very up and down start, I felt like he was a great buy low candidate just in general coming into the year. And his numbers aren't great by any means. They're not horrible. And some of the batted ball stuff gives me reason to think that, I definitely don't see him being completely washed and over the line. So individually, there are pieces there for Philly. I'd say probably more so than there are for the Mets as of now.
Yeah, with the New York Mets, Devin Williams, and the lack of what he's giving them right now. Not great, to say the least. So I would have to agree with you there. And now, how about if we do dive in on that NL Central, where all these teams have been above 500 this season? It's been remarkable. The Cubs are right now on a nice winning streak. The Brewers, I recognize that they don't win that game against Tariq Skubal, but still, they were able to put runs up on the board in the final game of that series. And with regards to all these teams in the NL Central, I'm trying to find one team that embarrassed on because I feel like they've all played good baseball thus far.
No, I agree. It's probably a situation from like the betting standpoint. If you go and every week you're trying to figure out, play the hot hand and see, okay, who's the value on this week in the NL Central? I really believe you're going to talk yourself into circles. And, if you were doing this and actually following your intuitions up with a bet, you might have all 5 teams in pocket by mid-June or July. And that's probably not a winning way to go about it. So I know we had talked about kind of earlier in late March, early April about the Cubs kind of being the classic team. If they got off to a slow start, look at them in the futures market. They've certainly stabilized, and I think getting Matthew Boyd back, even though he didn't qualify for the win in his first time out on a pitch limit, I thought looked solid and at least healthy getting back out there. And it's a huge get for them now to having been down one preseason opening day starter already to not lose another and to at least have him return to the fold. So kind of in a old position as far as that goes. And I do think some of these, like when you get these interleague series and we've seen the Cardinals look really good in a couple of their interleague sets, somewhat surprisingly so based on market expectations. Those might be the times where you get these super competitive divisions with 4 or 5 teams that are above 500. That can be the time where you just pounce and say, look, I'm going to, like if it's NL Central versus AL West, for example, right now, right? You might just be beating the drum on those NL Central teams unless they're going up against, an ace who's in really good form, something like that.
Yep, exactly. And it has been really fun to be taking a look at all of these teams? And how do you take a look at this upcoming series between the Brewers and the Pirates? Because right now, Pirates about minus 135, minus 130-ish favorites in that game number one, with it being Brandon Woodruff going against Paul Skeens. And I think that this is going to be such a fascinating matchup because obviously with the Brewers, it's been a solid start to the season for them, despite the fact that they've had so many injuries. And that's probably the one thing that I do fear a little bit, perhaps a little bit of regression, and perhaps, shall we say, a little bit of the buildup of the injuries that they've taken thus far to the lineup.
Right, and you could see that just in the approach against Skubal. I mean, it was a whole lot of looking for bunts, the hits they got were pretty much all on soft contact outside of the Blake Perkins hit that had gotten them to tie game after they'd really done nothing. I mean, it was pretty much all these sub 90 mile an hour, exit velos in that game. I wonder against Skeens if we see more of the same, right? And it's just a lot of like the Brandon Lockridges of the world. If you look at some of his advanced metrics, like off speed stuff, he just cannot make contact. Yet he's a speedster. He just tries to put the ball in play. And we've already heard a lot of these opposing managers and players even admit, like when the Brewers put the bunt on or they hit these little choppers in the infield, they're all thinking about it. They're understanding we don't have any margin for error on these plays. And against a pitcher like Paul Skeens, who just gets so many swings and misses, I have to imagine that will be a premium, at least in game one. And for Brandon Woodruff, it's been interesting. The velocity's down. He said he's not worried about it. And yet he's been a solid veteran pitcher in the sense that he's been able to get around it, honestly, a lot of the time. That's, I think, my big question. I'm not feeling super confident making a bet for game one of that series just because Woodruff's been a little up and down and kind of hard to know what you're getting out of him. But that's the fascinating part going forward is I have so much trust in him just from a longevity standpoint, even though like actually watching him, Greg, the fastball velo's down. It's like the arsenal doesn't look all that impressive. In a way, he's kind of like getting into that late career Adam Wainwright stage territory where he's just able to figure it out and put together solid outings.
Yep, he certainly has been able to. That has been impressive to take a look at, to say the least. And I mean, for the Milwaukee Brewers, it's been incredible the way that they've just been able to find a way to, for lack of a better term, be able to move the line. And do you think that that actually helps out the Brewers moving forward here in the NL Central? Or do you think that that could cause for a little bit more volatility? Because, again, they don't necessarily have the deep ball hitters, especially with Christian Yelich on the injury list. Though I will say Jake Bauers and Gary Sanchez hitting 5 home runs apiece was not necessarily on my bingo card coming into the season. Meanwhile, you've got a team like the Cardinals that's been able to slug their way to a few victories, but there might be a little bit of regression there. And then when it comes to the Pirates, they've had a nice, shall we say, come up with their offense. And I think that it's going to be interesting to gauge them as well, because last year they were last in the league in terms of offense, but I really think that the Ryan O'Hearn signing was one of the most underrated across baseball in the offseason.
Yeah, I definitely believe it can go both ways. And at least in the regular season, I'm of the belief that that sort of lineup maturation up and down the board and working deep counts, doing the little things, putting balls in play. And Milwaukee's, they're tops of the league in a lot of categories, stolen bases, walks, near the top. And those being key pieces and key elements to winning these games when you don't have your full lineup at your complete disposal here. So I think it'll be good for Milwaukee going forward. And I've been really impressed with Garrett Mitchell. It's been a long wait. Part of that's been injuries, but he's finally showing us putting together what we had previously, which was just a lot of brief glimpses of a potential top of the order caliber player. Can't wait to see how that continues to develop, even though he has been a little bit more prone to the swing and miss. That's kind of the Brewers order in a nutshell. And if you get that continued development, we've seen what happened when a guy like Bryce Turang, went from just getting started and being a guy who was the bottom of the order player to where he's at now as one of the premier second basemen in the game. That, to me, that should result in very good things. Regular season-wise, not that we sit here and believe that will translate necessarily well in the postseason because we've seen how that story plays out. But I have no reason to believe, even with no Yelich, no Churio, that Milwaukee can't continue to keep producing at the plate, even if it's not going to be bombs left and right.
Yep, and with the Milwaukee Brewers, they just continue to be able to find a way to move the line, get the job done. And I do want to ask you about this as well, as we do have Ben Wilson, who does great work here at VSiN, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. Is there one or two teams that we have not talked about that you're finding a little bit of value on as of right now? Whether that be betting on them, whether that be fading them, other than obviously the Mets and the Phillies. I think that we very, very much aired that out very well. But that said, is there a team or two that just really has your eye right now and you're intrigued by?
Yeah, I'll go to the AL, and it's maybe not so much team specific, but a couple pitchers that I've I've certainly been riding, and one has really bad numbers, one has really good numbers. I think long-term are both guys to trust. And for the Rangers and the AL West, I mean, it's been such a mixed bag, and nobody really looks particularly impressive. And I guess if you're in that division, that means you feel pretty live, right? If nobody's running away with anything or looking all that good, you should feel like you're in a pretty good spot. But that Rangers A series that starts, I'm going to back Nathan Eovaldi. We're into that position now, Greg, where we have a lot of these starting pitchers, 5 or so starts under their belt if they've been healthy. And I mean, Eovaldi's got a near 380 batting average on balls in play. xFIP should be a couple runs lower than his true ERA right now, which is over 5. Got banged around his first couple starts, but I've liked what I've seen as far as just the adjustments that he's making and getting the A's at home. It sets up pretty well for him here to start that weekend set. So Eovaldi's a guy I'm certainly going to ride on Friday. And then I do like Drew Rasmussen in a bounce back here for Tampa. It was really his first poor outing last time out. Took on the Pirates. And again, it's whenever we've seen some of these AL, whether it's AL West or AL Central against NL Central, I mean, it's just been bombs away for these NL Central teams. And he struggled against the Pirates, but there was a rain delay in that game, just sort of, sketchy circumstances all the way around. And I'm kind of willing to chalk that one up to, to kind of the end of a heater for Rasmussen. But his underlying numbers are actually pretty legit compared to an ERA. It's barely over 2, WHIP well under 1, and I do look at his stuff, his arsenal, and believe there's a lot of staying power there. So just a couple of names. Maybe it's not betting on their specific teams every day, but when those guys come up every 5th day, I'm going to try to find a way to back them in some form or fashion. If it's not the team, it's going to be some sort of pitching prop, et cetera, on those guys.
Yep, I absolutely love those looks. And Ben, I know that you are doing an amazing job here at the network. I know that you're doing an amazing job with your play-by-play work and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Hey, absolutely, Greg. Always a pleasure coming on with you. I'm at Ben_Wilson_1. And we are getting ready for home stretch of the college baseball season, and was just watching Peyton Tolley here earlier today, guy who I covered in college. We're seeing those guys come up to the bigs, sooner than ever before. And it makes it really exciting from our standpoint as far as all the scouting and the college coverage. So I'll be trying to promote those as much as I can as we go into the postseason grind. But that's the big thing coming up.
Absolutely. And I know that our man, Ben, he's doing a great job on so many fronts. Every single time he joins me, lends amazing insights. He did so once again today. So a big thanks to Ben for joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast. Coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Ben Wilson. He does such great work over here at VSiN. His play-by-play work is second to none. Man checks so many great boxes every single time he joins me. He lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Ben for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, the 3 interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Mets are going to be playing us the Colorado Rockies. Michael Lorenzen is on the bump for the Rockies, and Freddie Peralta goes for the Mets. Mets are between -220 to -230 favorites. Between +180 to +195 is that number on the Rockies. 7.5 is the total, over and under anywhere between -105 to -115. If you're looking to lay run half with the Mets, right around even money to +105 is what you're finding there. I'm going to be willing to trust in the Mets here. I set that run line price at a -105. I recognize that Freddie Peralta has not necessarily been an ace this far this season, and I thought there might be a little bit of regression after that 270 ERA last season, coupled with the 364 field independent. This year, 405 ERA, 9.5 strikeouts, 3.4 walks per 9 innings. Has allowed 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but as we know, the Colorado Rockies, because when they leave Coors Field, they go back down to sea level. That affects them quite a bit. It's a big reason why they were dead last in the league in terms of runs per game away from home last season. They're averaging about 3.5 runs per game away from home thus far this season. That's a bottom 7 mark in the big league, so I do think that Peralta Peralta going to be sharp here. And with the flip side of Michael Lorenzen, he has had a very shaky start to the season for the Colorado Rockies. Right now, a 7.48 ERA. Most of those struggles have come at home. He got absolutely gong-showed at home when he went up against the Philadelphia Phillies, giving up 9 runs there. And his last 2 road starts has not been bad. Now, recognize that he's only went like 3 1/3 innings with 2 earned runs allowed in those last 2 road starts. He gave up a ton of unearned runs in that game against the Houston Astros, so he has been really unlucky with the fielding behind him because he's right now at 5 unearned runs credited against him thus far this season. Fielding dependent, more around about a 531, 1.7 home runs per 9 innings allowed, just 6.6 strikeouts per 9, but it's also a Mets team that's currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Juan Soto coming back should be able to help that out. Last year, 40-plus home runs, nearly a 400 on base. That obviously is a big boost because right now, Bo Bichette is not worth the money. Marcus Semien, I didn't think that this was going to be good for them right now. It certainly has not been. Mark Vientos is starting to pick it up a little bit, but you just don't know what you're going to be able to get out of Carson Benjay moving forward. He's been a big disappointment out there in the outfield, and Luis Robert looking a little bit better than he was with the White Sox, but still a bit shaky there. For the Rockies, going into yesterday, they were a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You had Victor Vodnik blow that game, and he has not been great, to say the least, as far this season, but you still have the likes of Juan Mejia, Jaden Hill, throw in there the new acquisition of Brendan Bernardino. They also applied a sub-350 ERA last season. Rockies typically do pitch better away from home rather than at home, and for the Rockies, you do have guys that are finding a way on base. Mickey Moniak has been able to give you now 8 home runs. He's been able to supply about a 350 on base, but away from him last year was hitting more like a 200. Kyle Karros has been a little bit of a disappointment along with Brenton Doyle. You do have Troy Johnson, who's hitting well above a 300, and then you do have a guy giving you a 370 on base, and Tyler Freeman, who's been a nice add as well. I do think that for the Mets, Luke Weaver is starting to find it a little bit more after he was so good with the Yankees a season ago. Oscar Brisbane, Brooks Raley have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, so I think that this is going to be a lower scoring game. Lorenzen has been much better away from home. Somebody told 7.3, like the under, and for the Mets, I'm going to be willing to lay up to a minus 105 on that run line. 9:53 and 9:54 on the card. The Phillies are going to be on the road against the Braves. Grant Holmes is on the bump for the Braves. Andrew Painter is on the bump for the Phillies. Phillies are an underdog between plus 110 to a plus 115, minus 130 to minus 135. That number on Atlanta. 8.5 to 9 is total. On the 8.5, over is minus 125. The under is plus 105. And on the 9, under is minus 115. Over is minus 105. Set a total of an 8.8. I'm looking at the 9 to the under. That's mostly what we're seeing, and it's less juicy at this point as well. When it comes to Andrew Painter, he's been better than the ERA would indicate, right around about a 4.47 or 4.48 ERA, but that fielding dependent is right now sub-3. He's been getting 9.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, has really done a good job in terms of command. 2 walks, 0.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 249 fielding dependent to be exact. So I like what I've seen there. And for Grant Holmes, he has been giving up about 3.6, actually 3.8 walks per 9 innings as far this season, but still 3.42 ERA, facing off against a Philadelphia Phillies team that they just have not been good on offense away from home. They are dead last in the National League in terms of run creation away from home. Entered in yesterday with about 2.9 runs per game away from home, probably closer to 3.1 after a little bit of an outburst yesterday, but still, you've got quite a few guys that need to pick it up. Alec Boehm has been miserable for this team, hitting below the Bedell line of a 200. Kyle Schwarber, he's been able to give you some boom, 6+ home runs of 342 on base, but again, hitting right around the Bedell line of a 200. Like what I've seen out of Brandon Marsh, pair of home runs yesterday, he's hitting at 300. Bryce Harper, 350 on base, so he's starting to move the line once again. Trey Turner, though, hitting at 225. You need more there. Justin Crawford gets on base, but really doesn't supply a lot of power. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, they had to go to extra innings yesterday, so that expends the bullpen even more. And, well, when you've got Yohan Duran on the injured list, that's not great to say the least. Jose Alvarado, since that drug suspension, has not been himself. Even Zach Pop is on the injured list. Brad Keller had a career year last year with the Cubs. It looks like he's doing for some regression, like Orion Kirkering, sub-375 ERA last season. But the Atlanta Braves have a clear edge here. Currently, they are number 1 in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA. Since Tyler Kinley got to town from the Rockies, sub-250 ERA, they do have Racy Iglesias on the injured list, but Robert Suarez was the closer for the Padres last year. He can easily fill that role. Aaron Bummer, Dylan Lee, sub-350 ERAs last season. And for the Atlanta Braves, right now, they are leading the league with about 5.7 to 5.8 runs per game. Drake Baldwin hitting above a 300 with 6+ home runs. Matt Olson, 7 bombs, over a 350 on base. They've got a few injuries. Sean Murphy is still out of the fold. Hasn't mattered. And Ronald Acuna Jr. hasn't even been great to start the season. Mike Yastrzemski, it's been a limited sample size for him. He hasn't been good for the team, but Ozzie Albies, he has found it. 5 home runs, hitting darn near 300. You've had the likes of Dom Smith, Mauricio Dubon do amazing work for this team. I do think that the Braves get to Painter here. They get to the bullpen, and I think that the Atlanta Braves just continue to roll here, and the Phillies continue to struggle away from home. Semi-total at 8.8 on the 9. I do like the under, and I'm going to be willing to lay the money line with the Braves. Set them at a minus 153. 955, 956. The Pirates are going to be on the road against the Brewers. Brandon Woodruff is on the bump for the Crew, and Paul Skeens goes for the Pirates. Pirates are minus 135 to minus 142 favorites, plus 113 to plus 120. That number on the Brewers. 7 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, and I set the Brewers at a plus 116. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on their money line at like the plus 118, plus 120 that I'm seeing. Paul Skeens had that rough first start of the season. Ever since then, he's been able to hold it down. Once again, he has given up a grand total of 3 runs over the course of his last 4 starts. Last start was cut short due to rain against the Tampa Bay Rays, but overall, he's looking like the Paul Skeens that we all know and love. 9.5 strikeouts, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and the one issue that you've had for Brandon Woodruff has been giving up the deep ball. Last year, about 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, down to about 1.1 this season. 3.42 ERA, 3.73 fielding independent. Last year got 11.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, just 7.6 this season, but just 1.5 walks per 9 innings. For the Brewers, the bullpen has been a little bit shaky this year, headlined by Trevor McGill, posting up well north of a 5 ERA. They're currently dealing with an injury or two as well. Jerry Caney being on the injury list, that does not help this team, but so you've been able to have Aaron Ashby do a rock solid job along with Abner Uribe, so I think that these guys are going to pick it up, and for as banked up as this Brewers lineup is, Christian Yelich, Andrew Vaughn, Jackson Trio being on the injury list, you just continue to get great production out of so many of these guys. Bryce Terang hitting at 300, one of the best base stealers in all of baseball. Sal Frelick has been cold, but Brandon Lockridge in a little bit of a platoon role, he's been able to about a 275. He's got some wheels. You've had David Hamilton now give you above a 325 on base, and some unexpected power as well. Jake Bauers and Gary Sanchez, 5 home runs apiece. William Contreras continues to hit about a 300 functional power out of him as well. And then on the flip side for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they haven't been quite the same offensive team when they've been away from home rather than at home. Currently, they are a top 10 team in terms of run creation. Entered into yesterday, though, averaging about a full run per game less when they are away from home rather than at home. But Oneil Cruz is now hitting above a 275, and he was last year hitting right around the nose line of a 200, so that's been good for them. And I love the pickup of Ryan O'Hearn. Last year, above a 350 on base when he was with the Padres and the Orioles, had 20-plus home runs. He's looking to duplicate that this season. Brandon Lau, he has gotten loud with 7 home runs. Now the catcher spot, Joey Bard, Henry Davis has not been great, and Colton Griffin, it's going to take him some time before he becomes a functional major league player, in my opinion. Lots of upside there, but certainly it's been a little bit of an issue. And then with the Pirates, in terms of that bullpen, they're probably not going to need a ton of it, but it's hard to trust in Gregory Soto at the closer spot. Now, you do have a guy in Justin Lawrence that last year had a sub-2 ERA. He has really regressed this season, but absolutely love what I'm seeing out of Dennis Santana. He's been very good for this team. It's a Pirates team that, by the way, was dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game last season. Much better this year, so it's up by total 7.2. The Brewers, they just find a way to be able to small ball you to death, and I do think that this is a little bit too lofty of a money line price with them being at home. I'm going to take plus 118 or better with the Brewers on the money line. Here at the 7, like the over, so my total is 7.2. 957, 958 on the card. The Cubs are going to be on the road against the Dodgers. Emmett Sheehan goes for the Dodgers. Jamison Taillon is on the bump for the Cubs. The Cubs do find themselves between plus 135 to plus 142 underdogs, minus 160 to minus 170. That number on the Dodgers money line, if you're looking to lay a run half with them, you're going to be getting plus money of about plus 115 to plus 122. Total on this game is 9.5. Unders minus 110 to a minus 120, and the over is between even and minus 110. And I do like the under. I did set my total at an 8.7. I recognize that if you look at Emmett Sheehan this far this season, he has not necessarily been dominant, but I do have reason to believe that he's going to be able to pitch much better in this performance because, for one, you take a look at his home and road splits throughout his career, very, very stark. For Emmett Sheehan, throughout his career, he has given up a little bit of a home run per 9 innings when he is at home, but that ERA drops by quite literally 2.8 points, nearly double as. Right now, he, for his career in his home starts, has provided an ERA of about a 281 compared to a 561 ERA on the road, 585 ERA overall for the 2026 season, 1.8 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. That's obviously both home and road, but you look at that 2025 campaign, 282 ERA, 10.9 strikeouts, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So I do think that that is going to be returning to the 2025 form. Meanwhile, for Jamison Taillon, 397 ERA thus far this season. Not great, not terrible. 605 fielding independent, 2.4 home runs, 3.6 walks allowed per 9 innings. So I think he's doing for some very massive regression. Then when it comes to the Cubs lineup, it has very much gotten online. The Phillies very much helped out with that. Michael Busch was really struggling. He had himself a nice series here over the last week or so, but still has been hitting below a 225, not where he was a season ago. The catchers are all doing a good job getting on base. Moises Ballesteros, Miguel Amaya, also Carson Kelly have all been able to give you at least a 375 on base, so they've been rock solid there. Ian Happ, he's starting to raise up that batting average, and he's got 7 home runs to be able to go with about a 360 on base. Nico Horner is hitting above a 300, so these guys are starting to find it, but still, Dansby Swanson hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. You need a little bit more there, and Amaya has fallen below 350 on base to clarify the catchers. But that said, on the flip side for the LA Dodgers, this is a team that's actually much worse at home rather than away from home. Away from home, they are averaging over 6.5 runs per game, more like 4.5 at home, but you know that it's coming sooner rather than later. Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani are all giving you good power numbers and are all above 365 on base, with Muncy actually leading the way with 8 home runs. Shohei Ohtani, right now he's at 5 bombs. You've had Andy Paz give you darn near 400 on base. He's been able to go deep 5 times this far this season. You've had from out of nowhere Hyesung Kim give you over a 400 on base. So like everyone, Dalton Rushing has 7 home runs and less than 35 at bats. And for the LA Dodgers, even though they've got Edwin Diaz currently on the injured list, you've got Tanner Scott, who 2 years ago was one of the better relievers in all of baseball, Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia, 2 guys that supplied a sub-3 ERA last season, and a Cubs bullpen that's just all sorts of banged up. Like Porter Hodge is done for the season, Ethan Roberts, Hunter Harvey, Daniel Palencia, all these guys are on the injured list. Caleb Theobar is now dealing with a little bit of an ailment. They had to play 10 innings yesterday. Jacob Webb, sub-325 ERA with the Rangers last season, but I do think that the Dodgers do a nice job taking it to the Cubs. Cubs having to go from the Midwest out to the West. I think that takes a lot out of them, and I like this spot for Emmett Sheehan. So somebody told it an 8.7, like the under, and with the Dodgers, I was willing to lay a price on the run line. I was willing to lay up to like a minus 110. I'm seeing plus 120 or so. We'll take that run line. 959, 960. The Marlins are on the road against the Giants. Adrian O'Connell Doogie Howser is on the bump for the Giants, and Sandy Alcantara is on the bump for the Marlins. The total on this game, it is 7.5. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 115. The over is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and with Miami, between minus 110 to a minus 118 is that money line price. Between minus 105 to plus 105 is that number on the San Francisco Giants. Set the Marlins at a minus 124. Being able to get a minus 110, I'm willing to take a shot on the Marlins on the money line. It is a Marlins team that is not necessarily going to have a bunch of big poppers out there in the lineup, but getting back Kyle Stowers should be able to help out those power numbers a little bit. Additionally, you've had Xavier Edwards provide well above a 300 average. It's a really nice base stealer. I love what he brings to the table for this team, and Liam Hicks has been a nice surprise for this team in terms of being able to give you a little bit more pop. Right now, he's at 4 home runs, over 20 RBI. He's done a nice job finding a way on, hitting for about a 365 or so on base. They need more out of Jacob Marcy, 1 home run and hitting for about a 300 on base. Owen Casey has regressed a little bit since the beginning part of the season as well, but overall, I do think that this team is going to do a solid job moving the line, and I do think that there's some positivity doing for this bullpen as well. Lake Bakar has been a relatively solid long guy, and John King, who they picked up from the St. Louis Cardinals, sub-1 ERA right now, but these guys like Calvin Fauché, Andrew Nardi, they provided a sub-3 ERA last year. Right now, they're above a 450. Anthony Bender, throw him in there as well. Pete Fairbanks has had his struggles. I think that turns around for them, and for the Giants last year, they were a top 5 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. They're back in the top 10 this season, so the bullpen has been fine. Matt Gage has been a really good find for them. Sub-2 ERA, Caleb Killian, who comes on over from the Cubs. He's been able to give you a sub-1 ERA. Don't know if that's going to be withstanding. You've had some shakiness out of Eric Miller last year, a sub-225 ERA, up to about a 450 this year, but Ryan Walker is finding it. It's just a Giants team that is not hitting right now. Like right now at home, they're averaging fewer than 3 runs per game. That is dead last among National League teams. Willie Adames is right now leading the way at 3 home runs. I believe they're stuck on 14 home runs in 25 games as far this season. Like, you just need a little bit more there. Luis Arias is moving the line. He's hitting for above a 300. You've had Casey Schmidt be able to find a way on pair of home runs. He's hitting at 280. You've got Matt Chapman hitting at 285, but there's just no power in this lineup right now because Rafael Devers has been completely useless. So that has been an issue, and for Sandy Alcantara, the fielding independent is higher than the ERA, but he has been very judicious with his pitches. I mentioned the fact that this has been a bullpen that's been struggling a little bit. He's going to relieve them. 35 and a third innings in 5 starts this far. He's averaging over 7 innings a start, giving up 1 home run, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. Strikeouts are down with about 6 strikeouts per 9, but being able to be in this ballpark helps him out. And then Adrian Hauser, he's coming off of a 3.31 ERA last year, 0.7 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings. He's pitched better than what his ERA would indicate this year. Right now, a 5.40 ERA, 4.43 fielding dependent, not getting strikeouts, 4.5 strikeouts per 9, but 0.8 home runs, 2.9 walks per 9. So with the Marlins, willing to lay up to a minus 123 on the money line. I like the under, so I total 7.1. 961, 962 on the card. It's the Red Sox. They're going to be on the road against against the Orioles. Brandon Young goes for the Orioles. Brian Bayo is on the bump for the Red Sox. Red Sox are right around even money to plus 105, between minus 110 to minus 120. That is your number on the Baltimore Orioles, and total on this game is 8.5. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. I did set my total at an 8.7, so I'm going to be taking a look at this total to the over. You've got a Red Sox team that has been struggling with their offense. Right now, they're the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of run creation, but with this Red Sox team, I do think that they're going to pick it up a little bit. Last year, they were 6th in the big leagues in terms of run creation. You still have Weiler Abreu, who's been able to give you 3 home runs. He's been able to darn near 300 for this unit. Additionally, for the Red Sox, I do think that it's going to be very important that they get more out of this infield, because that's what's really been laying them down. Trevor Story, Caleb Durbin, hanging below the Mendoza line of 200. Isaiah Canero-Falefa has given you absolutely nothing whatsoever. Ceddanne Rafaela, he's hitting for about a 340 on base. Masataka Yoshida is moving the line. Same with Wilson Contreras, but they just don't necessarily have the power numbers that we've seen from them in the past, which, Story really being a main guy, 220 on base. That's just not cutting it right now. For the Red Sox last year, they were numero dos in the big leagues in terms of bullpen area. They've taken a little bit of a step back, but still, you've got Aroldis Chapman, who's the best closer in all of baseball, in my opinion, right now, outside of perhaps Mason Miller, Greg Weiser, Danny Kalum, Garrett Woodlock. These guys all had a sub 325 ERA last season. And for Brian Bayo, he's a guy that's going to pitch you a lot of contact. He induces some good soft contact, less than home run allowed per 9 innings last year. But that said, when it comes to Brian Bayo, he is a guy that has some command issues. Last year, 3.2 walks per 9 innings. Right now, 1.4 home runs, 5.8 walks per 9, 675 ERA, 577 fielding dependent. I think that improves against an Orioles lineup that is banged up right now. You've got Jackson Holliday, who's currently on the injury list. Jordan Westberg is going to be out for quite some time. Pete Alonso, 3 home runs, hitting less than a 230. He's been a little bit of a disappointment. We'll say for Brandon Young, 1 start thus far, and it was actually a really good start. Gave up 2 hits, no runs in 5 innings. He was deplorable last year. 6.24 ERA, 5.35 fielding dependent. I don't know if I'm willing to trust in him after 1 start. You do have an Orioles bullpen that it's not amazing, it's not bad. Uncle Rico Garcia's giving you a sub 350 ERA since the beginning of last year. Ryan Elsley is starting to look like the Ryan Elsley of old. Yadier Cano, don't you know, he's been a little bit better. But again, the Orioles lineup is still very suspect, even though you do have Jeremiah Jackson, who's been able to hit about a 300, and he's been able to give you some power, 5 home runs over the last 21 days. Gunnar Anderson is up to 7 bombs, but he's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. The young guys just need to pick it up. Blaze Alexander, Kobe Mayo, Samuel Basayo hitting below a 200. I do think that you're going to get a little bit of runs in this game. I just don't trust in Young after 1 start. I think that the Red Sox pick it up with their offense. I set them as the slimmest of slim favorites at minus 101. So even money or better in on the Red Sox money line. You're at the 8.5, like the over, semi-total at 8.7. 963, 964 on the card. It's the Guardians. They're on the road against the Blue Jays. Max Scherzer is on the bump for the Jays, and Gavin Williams goes for the Cleveland Guardians. And the Guardians do find themselves as favorites of between minus 125 to minus 130, and with the Blue Jays, it's between plus 105 to a plus 115. 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 7.5, the over is minus 115 to a minus 120, and the under is between even and minus 105. On the 8, the under is minus 120. Over is even, and I'm willing to trust in the over in this spot. I did set my total at an 8.3. With Gavin Williams, he has been a strikeout artist for the team thus far this season. He's getting over 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, the walks are a big issue. He is giving up over 5 walks per 9 innings, but I did set him at a minus 125 here. Seeing minus 124, minus 125, that's my max lay with the Guardians on the money line, but I'm going to be willing to trust in them because even though Max Scherzer is coming off of a nice start, last time out, he gave up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. I believe that was against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Man, he's got a 7.16 ERA with 5.5 strikeouts and 2.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings thus far this season. Last year, 5.19 ERA, 2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's not necessarily backed up by the world's greatest bullpen. It's been better recently as Braden Fisher has been able to spy sub 3 ERA, Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland. These guys have been solid, but man, Brandon Little's coming up very, very little. It's been a very taxed bullpen with the way that they've been mixing and matching with regards to their starters. And for the Guardians, this team is currently in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen area as well. They had Hunter Gaddis on the injured list to begin the season. That hurt them a little bit. They also lose Jacob Junis in the offseason, so that's been quite rough. But that said, Kate Smith has not been the guy that we've seen in previous seasons for this team. That has been a big, giant issue. I've never been a Matthew Festa guy personally, or having Kobe Allard as a long guy just be a complete and utter failure for the team. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this is never going to be a team that lights the world on fire with regards to their offense. Right now, they're averaging just under 4 runs per game. That's in the bottom 8 in the big leagues. But Jose Ramirez, after a cold start to the season, back above a 360 on base, 6 home runs. Chase Slaughter has been stuck on 5 home runs since seemingly the dawn of time, but at the very least, he's got 5 home runs at a 330 on base. Brian Rocchio is actually giving you a 360 on base. Not sure where that came from, but that's been solid, but you still do have a relatively rough bottom of the lineup. Gabriel Urias, who has been dealing with injury and has been a platoon guy, Reese Hoskins, Juan Burrito, CJ Kafis, Bo Naylor, Kyle Manzardo, all in at 225 or lower. That's a little bit of an issue. And then on the other end for the Toronto Blue Jays, having George Springer on the injured list, that's been hurting them along. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk. You've got Vlad Jr. is doing still an amazing job in terms of moving the line. 427 on base, just 2 home runs. I think that picks up a little bit. And then you've got a trio of guys, Andres Jimenez, Dalton Varsha, Kazuma, Okamoto, will all give you 3 home runs apiece. But Okamoto and Gomez both give you less than a 300 on base, need a little bit more there. Nathan Lukes, after a rough start, feels like he's starting to pick it up. And I do think that for Gavin Williams, the walks hurt him a little bit. So did set my total at 8.3. Like the over, for the Guardians, willing to lay up to a -124/-125 on this money line. 965, 966 on the card. It's the Twins. They're on the road. They're facing off against the Tampa Bay Rays. Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays. Taj Jonkel and Milton Bradley is on the bump for Minnesota. Minnesota's between even money to -102, -116 to -120 is that number on Tampa Bay. 7.5 is the total. Under is -120, and the over is even. And when it comes to Taj Bradley, set him at a +141. I recognize that for Bradley, it's been a really nice start to the year. Sub-2 ERA, sub-2 fielding independent. He's been able to do a nice job keeping the ball in the yard. It's not given up a home run thus far this season. I always am a little bit, shall we say, tepid to trusting guys pitching against their old team, because last year he was terrible. But between his time with the Rays and the Minnesota Twins, 5.05 ERA, 3.5 walks, 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, and this season he's come out a house of fire. But the Tampa Bay Rays know exactly what he's going to be throwing. You've got a lineup that is in the top 12 in terms of run creation with about 4.8 runs per game. Junior Caminero, 44 home runs last year. Yandy Diaz has given you well above a 425 on base. I recognize that they lose Brandon Lau in the offseason, but they found a way to replace him, and they're finally getting production at the catcher spot with Nick Fortes hitting above a 300 for this unit. You've had Chandler Simpson become one of the best base stealers in all baseball, and he's hitting like a 325. You've been able to have a little bit more recently as well out of some like a Ben Williamson, who's been able to give you about a 320 on base. No power whatsoever out of him, but even Johnny DeLuca, these guys are moving line. Now for the Tampa Bay Rays, very uncharacteristically, this bullpen has been awful. Griffin Jackson gets jacks up. He's a guy that you can't trust in right now. They're 28th in the big leagues, 5.64 ERA. Twins are a little bit better at the 4.70 ERA, but they had to expend a little bit more bullpen than expected yesterday, with Joe Ryan having a suspect start, so that's not necessarily amazing to say the least for the Twins. And then on the flip side, looking back at the Rays bullpen, I do like what you're able to get out of Hunter Biggie, Cole Sulzer, Brian Baker, the former Orioles. I've been able to give you a sub 440 ERA, but don't really have a lot of trustworthiness, especially with Garrett Clevenger currently on the injured list. And for the Twins, they've had Cody Funderburk being on the paternity list last few days, so congratulations to him, but it's just really hard to trust in a guy like a Justin Topo, who had a 4 ERA last season. Anthony Banda has been absolutely terrible in this bullpen. They traded away pretty much their entire bullpen at the trade deadline last season as well, so you don't have a lot of reliable arms. Cole Sands isn't necessarily too bad. And for the Minnesota Twins, it felt like a little bit of a fairy tale ride in the first few weeks of the season, with the way that they were just coming up with offense from out of nowhere. Now Byron Buxton has gotten out 5 home runs here in the last 2.5 or so weeks after a really shaky start to the season. Now they're getting Royce Lewis off the injured list. Cody Clemens, Matt Wallner, last year both gave you 20 plus home runs, both gave you less than a 225 average, and it looks like they're going to do the same thus far this season. So there's that aspect of things. Victor Caratini moving the line with the 350 on base. Same with Josh Bell, who had a nice second half of the season with the Nationals. Drew Rasmussen, he's got a far higher fielding independent than he does in ERA. Right now, providing a sub 275 ERA. And I mean, the strikeout stuff is way up. 9.2 strikeouts per 9, 1.4 walks per 9. Has given up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. The Trop is much more pitcher friendly than Steinbrenner Field from the season ago. But even with that, I think that this total is too low. Semi total 7.9, like the over, with the Rays willing to lay up to a -140 on the money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Royals are going to be playing against the Angels. You say Kikuchi. I say he's starting for the Angels. Noah Cameron's on the bump for the Royals. The Royals do find themselves in between -110 to a -118 favorite. -105 to a +105 is that number on the Halos. 9 is the total. Under is -115. The over is -105, and I did set a total here of an 8.7. I'm going to be in on the under. Now, I recognize that for Yusei Kikuchi, things have not been great, to say the least. Like after the All-Star break last year, he was supplying north of a 5 ERA. The command was all sorts of an issue. This year, 5.63 ERA. I think there's a little bit of positivity here. 402 fielding independent. He's given up 1.1 home runs per 9. His strikeout stuff is back up. 10.1 strikeouts per 9. Again, the command has been really the issue. 4.1 walks per 9 innings. And even though they moved the fences in over at Kauffman Stadium, it's still a Royals team that is not generating a lot of offense whatsoever. Entered into the day on Thursday, 27th of the league in terms of run creation with 3.5 runs per game. Now, their averaging more like 4.5 runs per game at home. But Bobby Witt Jr., and he just has not gone yard thus far this season. Carter Jensen is actually up to 5 home runs. That's been solid, but you need more out of Salvador Perez and Vinny Pasquantino. It does feel like the turnaround is starting for Pasquantino, but both these guys are below a 250 on base. Both of these guys hitting below a $175 with the batting average, 3 home runs apiece. You just need more there. Isaac Collins, right now, he's hitting like a $183. You've gotten nothing whatsoever out of Lane Thomas thus far. Jack Aglione is actually starting to move the line, but you have no power whatsoever there. And Miguel Garcia, he's finding a way on base as well. For the Royals, what's actually been surprisingly their issue, they're currently dead sinking last in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, I recognize that Carlos Aceves is on the injury list, but man, they have not gotten what they were hoping for out of so many of these other guys. Look at Lucas Erceg has been all over the place with regards to his command. Alex Lang is right now providing a north of 70 ERA. Daniel Lynch has been really good as a long guy, but that's really been the lone bright spot other than perhaps Eli Morgan in this bullpen. And last year, they were a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. So I do think that there's going to be a little bit of positivity on that front for the Los Angeles Angels. Their team has been a little bit herky-jerky with their bullpen as well, but bringing in a guy like Drew Pomeranz, sub-3 ERA last year with the Cubs, that's helped them out. Sam Bachman, Chase Silseth, they have found a home in this bullpen with a sub-3 ERA as well. Still don't trust in Jordan Romano. He's been awful for many, many seasons, and Ryan Zefrian is a guy that has a propensity to blow games, but for the LA Angels, how about Joe Adell setting fire to the rain? 3 home runs, about a 270 average. He's already robbed 3 home runs as far this season. Mike Trout, he's not necessarily hitting for a lot of average at 240, but over a 400 on base, 8 home runs. Nolan Schunel has been able to move the line a little bit with 3 home runs. Zach Neto's up to 5 home runs, and now you've got Ori Soler back from the suspension as well. So, I mean, it's a LA Angels team that's been pretty solid there. But I do think that Noah Cameron, even though if you look at the fielding independent numbers in comparison to the ERA since he got called up to the big league level at the beginning of the 2025 season, I do think that he's going to be able to go out there, produce relatively well. For his career, 330 ERA, 435 fielding independent. Does give up about 1.3 home runs, 2.8 walks per 9 innings. But it is an Angels team that they are a team that has a little bit of propensity to be a bit all or nothing. And for the Royals, I do think that bullpen improves significantly, and I think that the offense stayed down. Sid semi-total at 8.7, like the under, with the Royals set them at a minus 126, so we'll lay up to a minus 125 on the money line. 969, 970 on the card. It's the Athletics. They're going to be on the road against the Rangers. Nathan Eovaldi is on the bump for the Rangers. Luis Severino is on the bump for the Athletics, and with the A's, they are anywhere between plus 130 to plus 136 underdogs, minus 155 to minus 162. That number on the Walker Texas Rangers, 8 to 8.5 is a total. On the 8.5, under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. On the 8, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. Set a total here of an 8.3. I would actually rather have the 8.5 to the under rather than the 8 to the over. The Athletics are just a little bit of a different offensive team when they're away from home rather than at home. Right now for Sacramento, 5.1 runs per game at home, about 3.7 runs per game away from home. And Texas, Arlington just suppresses offense. Going into the day yesterday, the Rangers were averaging 2.6 runs per game at home, dead stinking last in all of baseball. Now that should be seeing a little bit of positive uptick, but still, it's been a little bit grody out there for the Rangers. You've had Corey Seager along Jake Berger be able to give you 5 home runs apiece, but Seager's hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200. Danny Jansen has had his issues at the plate. Josh Smith, Evan Carter, they're both hitting right around 200. Like Brandon Nimmo's moved the line, he's hitting at 300 along Josh Young, so that's been solid. And now they've got Alejandro Ozuna back up at the big league level after he showed some flashes last season. And for the Rangers, this is also a very trustworthy bullpen. They're currently a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. After last year, they were a top 5 unit here. Tyler Alexander, Jalen Beeks don't necessarily have low ERAs, but they're able to fill innings. Jacob Latz, I've always believed it should actually be a solid starter as well. Jacob Junis, sub 3 ERA last year with the Guardians. Cole Winn was able to supply a sub 250 ERA last season as well. So all these guys are able to do a pretty rock solid job there. And then for Nathan Eovaldi, last year he was so lights out, 173 ERA, like half home run per 9 innings, and this year 5.06 ERA. The swing and miss stuff has been actually there for him. He's getting about 9.5 to 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but certainly has had all sorts of issues in terms of just being able to keep things out in front of him. He's given up the deep ball much more than he did a season ago, but he has been much better at home rather than away from home. In his lone start at home, he gave up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, 5.66 ERA with 4 home runs given up in 20 2/3 innings away from home. So I do think that home cooking is going to be able to help him out a little bit here. And for the Athletics, it has been a team that has been just hoping and praying for Shea Langoliers to be able to hit bombs, because Shea is banged for either 6 or 7 home runs. He's been able to hit about a 300. Brent Rooker's on the injured list, so that has been hurting this lineup a little bit, but you just have not gotten a lot out of Lawrence Butler over the last few seasons. He's back hitting right around about a 200. Darnell Hernandez is not necessarily a guy that you can trust in too often. They've had Nick Kurtz be able to pick it up a little bit more with the offense. He's back up to 4 home runs, hitting for a 241, but a 427 on base. You've had Jacob Wilson be able to hit about a 280, but he doesn't draw any walks whatsoever. Tyler Soderstrom, a little bit of a rough start to to the season from Jeff McNeil, not hitting for power, but a 360 on base. So interesting circumstance, especially with Luis Severino being so much better when he has been away from home rather than at home. You take a look at what he did during the 2025 season, a 6.01 ERA at home. Now, he really didn't give up too many home runs in Sacramento, but he was just so far worse when he was at home rather than away from home. Away from home, 3.02 ERA, about 0.65 home runs per 9 innings. So with this total, I set mine at an 8.3. I want that 8.5 to the under. With the Rangers, set their money line price at a minus 155. I just don't trust the run line here, but seeing that minus 155 will delay the chalkier money line to go along with the under. 971, 972, the Astros are playing against the Yankees. Will Warren goes for the Yankees, and Lance McCullers Jr. is on the bump for the Astros. Astros do find themselves between plus 115 to plus 125 underdogs, minus 138 to minus 150. That number on the Yankees side is the total. The overs between minus 110 to minus 115, unders between minus 105 to minus 110, and with the Yankees, I set their money line price at a minus 137. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, that's right around about plus 110, plus 115 or so. And with regards to this circumstance, I'm going to be willing to lay that minus 135 money line. I don't quite trust in the run line here with the Yankees quite yet, because with Will Warren, I just need to see a little bit more from him before I can believe it. He's always been relatively good in terms of getting strikeouts. For his career, 9.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and after last year posting up a 4.44 ERA, he's been much better thus far this season. Right now, giving up 1.1 home runs, 2.1 walks per 9 innings with his 2.49 ERA, 3.06 fielding dependent, but he is going to be going up against an Astros lineup that is currently a top 6 team in terms of run creation. You've got 10 plus home runs out of Yordan Alvarez. He's giving you over a 450 on base. Jose Altuve still giving you over 350 on base. Christian Walker, 4 plus home runs. He's been able to move the line. Carlos Correa doesn't necessarily hit for power, but he's been able to give you over a 340 on base, so he's been able to do a nice job on that front. I really like the way that the Astros are hitting, but with the Houston Astros, this is also a team that is currently in the bottom 5 in terms of bullpen ERA. Like, they are just fresh out of options right now. AJ Bluebaugh has been posting up an ERA that is above a 5. You just have gotten nothing out of some of these guys like a JP France. They've demoted Colton Gordon to the bullpen. They are dealing with Josh Hader still being on the injured list. Bennett Sosa has been dealing with ailments. So, I mean, it's been all sorts of bad. Steve Okert has a sub-3 ERA, and Kai Wei Tang has actually been an okay long guy, but yeah, it's not been great to say the least. Brian Abreu last year was really good out of the bullpen. 14.73 ERA thus far, and then for Lance McCullers Jr., who knows if the command is ever going to come back from 6.3 walks per 9 innings last season. Right now, he's supplying a 6.20 ERA thus far this season after a 6.51 last season. 9.3 strikeouts and 4 walks per 9 innings. Now, if you look at that 3.98 fielding independent, it does point towards a little bit of positivity, and you do have a Yankees team that's coming off of playing a big rivalry game against the Boston Red Sox. Maybe it doesn't mean quite as much as it did like a decade or so ago, but I mean, that's still a big rivalry game, and for the Yankees, this is still a top 10 team with regards to run creation. Have been a little bit all or nothing thus far this season, but how about Ben Rice? 7 plus home runs. He's been able to give you about a 450 on base. For Aaron Judge, 361 on base is actually down from, but he's still been able to give you 9 home runs thus far this season. It's the infielders that need to pick it up, like Ryan McMahon, Jazz Chisholm, hitting below the middle side of 200. Austin Wells has been miserable at the plate, so they're going to need to get a little bit more there. Paul Goldschmidt has honestly been what they've been hoping for as well, and Yankees have been about a league average team in terms of their bullpen ERA. It's not been great. It's not been awful. They lose Luke Weaver in the offseason, but Tim Hill, Brent Hendrick, Fernando Cruz last year all were able to supply a sub-350 ERA. David Benner, Emilio Duvall. These guys were nice pickups at the trade deadline, so I do think that the Yankees do enough to be able to get the job done in a higher scoring game. Set by total 9.2, like the over, with the Yankees willing to lay up to a minus 136 on the money line. 973, 974 on the card. It's the Tigers. They are going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati, and they're on to Andrew Abbott, getting the start for them. Framber Valdez is on the bump for the Detroit Tigers. The Tigers do find themselves anywhere between minus 128 to minus 140 favorites, and between plus 115 to plus 120 is that number on Cincinnati. 8.5 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. The under is between minus 105 to a minus 110. I set the Reds out a favorite at a minus 116. I'm going to be willing to trust in them on the money line. For Framber Valdez, the start of the season has been much better than the end of the season last year, because he closed out 2025 with the Houston Astros having allowed at least 4 runs in 8 out of his last 10 starts. Not great there. 3.30 ERA, and I mean, he's keeping the ball in the yard, fewer than 3.5 walks per 9 innings, less than 1 home run per 9, but a career low 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a little bit of a red flag for me. Andrew Abbott is pitching to a lot of contact as well. 5.82 ERA, 5.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 432 fielding independent. He's given up just 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. And here's the kicker for what is behind Andrew Abbott. That bullpen, currently number 1 in the big leagues, entered into Thursday with a 2.54 ERA. Absolutely love what these guys are able to do. Now, I still don't trust in Emilio Pagan. That's the one guy that I really don't trust in, but you've had Tony Santillan, Graham Ashcraft be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Both of these guys are able to give you multiple innings. Connor Phillips has been relatively solid in the bullpen. For the Cincinnati Reds, this is still not a team that's lighting the world on fire in terms of their offense. Out of 30 teams, say, entered into Thursday, 25th in the league in terms of run creation, and actually having fewer runs per game at home rather than away from home. They always call it Great American Small Park, but man, it's been a little bit rough in terms of the offense here in the last few seasons at home, but they're continuing to find a way to be able to get the job done because of that bullpen, and I do think that there's upside with this lineup. Cousins, Sal Stewart, Ellie De La Cruz, 8 home runs apiece with De La Cruz, 330 on base. You've had Sal Stewart be able to give you about a 390 on base, and Eugenio Suarez coming off of hitting 49 home runs last year, so we know it could be a little bit or nothing, and hitting about a 230 average with 3 home runs this far this season. They just need these ancillary guys to be able to pick it up. Brian Hayes has right now got a 169 on base. That has to be going northward. Will Benson, Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel, they're all hitting below a 180. Dave Myers, I've actually liked what I've seen out of him. They should probably be giving him a few more at-bats, as right now he's been able to supply the team with about a 395 on base. Resigns, I just don't know if he ever finds that form they had from a season ago. And then for the Detroit Tigers, this is a team that's coming off of a relatively grueling game against the Milwaukee Brewers and quite frankly a series in general, but they just need to find the deep ball a little bit more. You've gotten 5 home runs thus far out of Dylan Dingler. Nobody else on the roster has more than 2 home runs. Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, they're starting to pick it up, and for Torkelson, he's hitting below the middle line 200, albeit the 330 on base is a little bit better, and then Riley Green, he's getting on, nearly a 395 on base. You just expect a few more than 2 home runs out of him. Kevin McGonigal is not a home run hitter at this point in his career, but he's been able to hit above a 300. You've had, when he's been out there, Cole Keith be able to do a solid job, be able to give you above a 300 average as well. And for the Tigers, this has been a bullpen that's been a little bit short of expectations thus far this season. I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up a little bit. Kyle Finnegan, since he comes over from the Washington Nationals, has a sub-3 ERA in a Tigers uniform since the back half of 2025. Tyler Holton, Brant Herter, Will Vest, all 3 of these guys were able to give you a sub-350 ERA last season. I just don't trust in Kenley Jansen at the closer spot, though. I just cannot do it. And for the Reds, I do think that Andrew Abbott here turns a relatively solid start. I think that Valdez holds his own as well, so I might total it at 8.3, so on the 8.5. Do like the under for the Reds. Set them at a minus 116, so won't take that plus money line. 975, 976 on the card. It's the Nationals. They're going to be on the road against the White Sox. Eric Fetty Wap is on the bump for the White Sox. Miles Michaelis is on the bump for the Washington Nationals. For the Nationals, you've got them as very slim underdogs here between plus 104 to a plus 110, minus 120 to minus 126. That number on the White Sox, 9 is the total. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105. I like the over. I set my total at 9.4. These are true incredibly untrustworthy pitchers. Like, man, I wish I could put it any other way. Now, Eric Fetty in the 2024 season, when he was with this team, he was actually quite good in Chicago. He had a sub-2 home ERA. He had a road ERA that was more than double that, and then things just went straight down the toilet bowl after they traded him at the trade deadline. Last year posted up a 5.49 ERA. He was getting no strikeouts whatsoever. 5.6 strikeouts, a 4.2 walks per 9. He's still not amazing this year. It's been a little bit better for him with a 3.92 ERA, but the 4.88 fielding dependent, point towards regression, 6.5 strikeouts, 3 walks per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's currently in the bottom 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Jordan Leisure is leisurely giving you over a 4 ERA. Serenity Dominguez just should not be your closer. You've got a guy like a Sean Newcomb that I just don't believe he should be on an MLB roster right now. The list goes on and on. Like, I really thought that Chris Murphy might be the best relief piece for the team. He's currently on the injury list. And for Miles Michaelis, it's been a no good, very bad, terrible start to the 2026 season. Right now, a nice hearty 9.15 ERA, fielding dependent of a 7.11, so he's always open to giving up runs, 2.7 home runs, 4.6 walks per 9 innings. But I do have a Chicago White Sox team that they found their offense a little bit more out there in the desert, but they're averaging about 3.4 runs per game at home compared to 4.6 runs per game away from home, and they might be the biggest all-or-nothing team in all of baseball this season because the White Sox have actually been able to hit some home runs. Mutaka Murakami is already up to 8+ home runs as far this season. The White Sox, in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis, they're a top 5 team in all of baseball, albeit all of them are coming at away from home right now, but hey, they've been able to hit quite a few home runs. You take a look at the on-base percentage going into the day on Thursday, though, and this has been a team that's been in the bottom 10 in baseball with that regard, so that's a little bit of an issue. Like, on a day-in and day-out basis, typically 6 out of your main 8 starters are hitting below a 235 with regards to that batting average. You've been able to get quite a bit out of Everson Piera. He's been able to do a nice job finding a way to move the line, hitting for about a 345 on base, 3+ home runs. Colson Montgomery, he's been able to find it. He's giving you about a 333 on base, and after a terrible start to the season, Andrew Benintendi had a big home run yesterday. He's still hitting for just a 275 on base with 2 home runs. Miguel Vargas hitting below the Bedell's line of a 200, and then on the flip side, you've got a Washington Nationals team that they have been absolutely raking thus far this season. The Washington Nationals are currently 3rd in the big leagues with about 5.5 runs per game. That goes up to 5.7 away from home. CJ Abrams, 5+ home runs. He's been hitting well above 300. James Wood is coming off of a year in which he had 30+ home runs. He's been able to give you over 350 on base. A lot of these ancillary guys, while they might not be able to provide the power that those two guys do, they're still finding a way on. Like, Dallin Lyle's been able to give you about a 350 on base. They've got a young third baseman, and Jobert Vivas has not hit a home run, but he's been hitting above a 300, about a 410 on base. Joey Weimer's giving you over 400 on base. Washington Nationals bullpen is deplorable. Last year, they were dead last in terms of bullpen ERA. Again, just like with the White Sox bullpen, who do you trust in here? Theodore Perez, Clayton Beater, well north of 4 ERAs last season. Brad Lord can actually be a good long guy, and he might piggyback in this game for Miles Michaelis, and wouldn't be surprised if Miles Michaelis has an opener from as well. Like, we saw that with PJ Poulin about a week or so ago. They're rolling the dice on Dickie Lovelady, so that's not a place where you want to be, but I think an high-scoring game, I give the edge here a little bit more to the Nationals, set them at a plus 106, seeing the about plus 110 or so money lines, going to be willing to take a shot on the Nationals, seeing that 9, I like the over at sub by total 9.4, and wrap things up with 977, 978 on the card. The Mariners are on the road against the Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for the Cardinals. George Kirby goes for the Mariners. Mariners do find themselves as a good size favorite here. They are between a minus 150 to minus 160 favorites. Plus 130 to plus 135 is that number on St. Louis, and between 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 7.5. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105 on the 8. Under is minus 115 to minus 120. The over is between even and minus 105. I like the Cardinals here. I was willing to take a plus 125 or better on the money line. Now, I can't say that I am necessarily the biggest stan here of Andre 3000 Palante. He just relies upon not giving up home runs, and that's all that he's done throughout his career. Right now, he's got a 4.05 ERA, but a much higher 5.19 fielding dependent, 5.4 strikeouts to 5 walks per 9 innings. He is supported by a lineup that has been very rock solid, though. Jordan Walker has been able to give you 8 home runs thus far. The Cardinals bullpen, by the way, to clear that up, they are not very good thus far this season, 5.17 ERA, but the Mariners bullpen has taken a little bit of a setback as well, as you've got Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, who's supposed to be a lockdown 8th and 9th inning duo for Munoz. He just has not been great this far this season. Now, you still do have the likes of an Edward Bizarro, who's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Gabe Spire is a guy that's pretty solid, and for the Cardinals, you just don't have that. Jojo Romero has been pretty solid over the last 2 seasons, but Ryan Stanek is just all over the place. Gordon Gaseffo has actually been pretty good for the team. Matt Savanson, though, you don't know if you're going to get out of him, so it's up to these guys to be able to slug their way to victory. Nathan Church, after a little bit of a rough start to the season, he's starting to be able to move the line. Mason Wynn, Nolan Gorman in the infield have been a little bit rough, and J.J. Weatherholt is not hitting for a lot of average, but he is giving you over a 325 on base. You've had Alec Burleson along with Ivan Herrera both give you over a 350 on base. These guys are just finding a way to be able to move the line, and for the Seattle Mariners, it's been a cold start to the season for them on offense. Right now for the Mariners, they're averaging 2.44 runs per game away from home. Out of 30 teams, that's number 30. Last year, they averaged over 5 runs per game away from home, so I do think that there's some positivity here. Big dumper Cal Raleigh got off to a really rough start to the season. Now he's been able to find that home run form, 5 home runs, but still hitting below the line of a 200. Josh Naylor over the last week has been much better. He's starting to get out of that rut. He was hitting for like a $120 about a week ago. He's up to a 194 now, but still, you're still having Cole Young, who doesn't necessarily give you a lot of power. Julio Rodriguez is just always a slow starter. Back up to a 340 on base, but only 1 home run thus far this season. Brendan Donovan has been in and out of the lineup when he's been there. Over a 400 on base, former Cardinal there. He's been able to give you 3 home runs, but for George Kirby, he's always had some pretty demonstrative home and road splits as well. Always does a nice job not giving out a lot of walks. He's learned that he can walk a few more guys. He's up a little bit over 2 walks per 9 innings, and right now for the season, 297 ERA, but 389 fielding dependent, career low 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and last year for Kirby, 338 ERA, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings at home, .516 ERA, 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings away from home. So I do think that you get a higher scoring game. Did so by total at an 8.6, and with the Cardinals plus 125 or better, I do like that money line. And that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever you for this podcast, you have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, large CM, they mean does not matter. So, per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other ways find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Big thanks to our guy, Ben Wilson, does amazing work here at VSiN. You join the in-line segment, coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So, I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.